I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, March the 22nd, brought to you in part by New Generation Supplements, a manufacturer of Smart Lick in a drum and Mega Lick low moisture block supplements and lick tubs. They've got facilities in South Dakota, Oklahoma, Nevada, Iowa, and Tennessee, and they sell through a network of 2,000 dealerships across the United States and Canada. For more information, go to newgensupplements.com. Packers seem to have put their foot down on the fat cattle market rally that we've been seeing over the last couple of months, really. And they're just resisting higher prices, even in your brick and mortar sales where they see fancy cattle. They're not tipping their hand and going out and bidding on those cattle aggressively. How long can they go? How long can they last here? We know they're short bought. I mean, they were scrambling for cattle on Friday night and Saturday morning here this last weekend, and they're dealing with 10,000 head less cattle than what they were a year ago at similar harvest here because of the carcass weights are so much lighter. But they've really put their foot down. They haven't lost money yet this year, according to estimates. And they don't want to, and you can't blame them for that. But they've really tried to woe up this market rally here. And some people are saying that we've already seen the spring market top. I don't think that we have. I think that if the few negotiated sellers that we have would just show a little bit of patience here and back off selling them the cattle and not sell them any cattle for the 2 to 4 week delivery so they can get the foothold and let them just rely on their captive supplies, they're going to have to give more for the cattle to keep their needs met. But they haven't bought hardly any cattle negotiated in the Southern Plains here for several weeks. They're bound to be needing some cattle in there. The Northern Plains guys have been selling their negotiated cattle pretty briskly, but they normally sell a lot of negotiated cattle up there, and their cattle are getting backed up. They're not as many of them ready, and they're not as many of them ready as there normally would be because of the relentless storms that just keep coming every week. It's made those cattle lighter. It's made those cattle not finish quite as good. And these packers are really going to have to start getting aggressive if they want some of those high grading cattle, because they're just not getting them in the Northern Plains. And your board bounced back a little bit here on Tuesday, but just not enough to really give us any confidence in things at all. We've got so much uncertainty in our publicly traded markets and our economics and everything with these banks failing, but that's kind of starting to back off a little bit, and we just need some more of these investors to get on the long side of the cattle market. We're bound to have some basis jumpers go in there and trade cattle probably with steady money with last week, which was lower because it's still at a premium to your April live cattle futures, and then gain a couple bucks there and feel good about the way that they sold them. But you look at your board on Tuesday, April live cattle futures were up 40 cents at 162.42. June up 62, excuse me, at 156.15. And we're starting to get some technical support on this June here. And I just find it hard to believe that we're going to dip way down into the mid 150s here, as tight as market ready supplies are. But like I said, we've got to get the few negotiated sellers to believe that, get some more confidence in their sales, and understand that the packers desperately need their cattle. You look at your back months on live cattle futures, they were down 35 to up 30, so really nothing. Feeder cattle were up. March feeder cattle were up 57 cents at 188.77, back to a slight premium to what our cash index levels are. April up just 7 cents at 194.70. Back months on feeder cattle were down 12 cents to up 50 cents, so not a whole lot of difference there. Look at your grain. May corn futures were down 3 cents at 6.30. December was down 3 1/4 cents at 5.56 3/4 cents a bushel. May beans down 19 at 1467. Fat cattle trade didn't hardly have any direct negotiated trade on Tuesday, and we don't expect a whole lot. But the little bit of trade we've seen, regional packers coming in there and creaming a couple of deals. We just have one load of cattle sell that was confirmed on Tuesday in the country. Iowa sold a load at 165, which would have been steady with last week, but we saw some Monday trade at 166 on some really nice cattle. Your biggest fat cattle market in a brick and mortar sale barn is at Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota. They had 2,300 head on Tuesday. It was some lower, and like I said, your packers are just showing some discretion, showing patience, not getting too excited about the cattle. But the offering of cattle that they had in Yankton was not as high in quality as what we're used to. A lot of the cattle went back to feed, so some of those feeders, they feel pretty confident about the market, and they're going to put a little bit of extra finish on those cattle, get them into a higher grading category where the packers will want them a little bit more. Conventional cattle in Yankton, South Dakota on Tuesday brought 163 to 167.50. That was about $1.50 lower. Your program cattle, non-implanted or drug-free, bring from 164 to 171.25. That was $1 to $2 lower. Box beef cutout values were lower again. We're expecting them to crank back up here in the next week or two because of our spring demand, grilling demand like we normally see this time of year. But gosh, it's just been cold and windy and snowy and wintry up north, wet out west, wet and cold out east too. So when the weather clears up, we're bound to see a rally in these box beef cutout values. But choice cuts on Tuesday afternoon were down $1.10 at 279.92. Selects down $2.39 at 271.55. Your slaughters hanging right in there. 252,000 harvested through the first 2 weeks of this week, or first 2 days of this week. That's exactly the same at this point last week, and 12,000 more than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Our Punchy Pick of the Month contest is going strong, and we're getting lots of picks in. If you guys get a pick, and we don't want staged picks or things like that. We just want impromptu picks happening out during your day. Everybody's got their cell phone with them. They all got a camera on them. If you see something that's pretty unique and punchy and you get a snap of it, send it to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com. We're getting ready to name a new winner here at the end of this month. And the prize package is pretty handsome, guys. You get a case of Ferapiece, that topical product there that you put on the nose or the muzzle of the calf or cattle and up on the pole there, and it calms those cattle down. We've been hearing some interesting reports of how good that's working. You want to try it on your cattle and see how it's working. You can also go to Feraah, FERAAH.com, and find out more about that product. You'll also get some cool stuff from Beaver Feed in Beaver, Oklahoma, and Beaver County Stockyards, also in Beaver, Oklahoma there. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index late in the day on Tuesday, based on an 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, ended the day on Tuesday at 188.21. That was down another 66 cents. So pretty significant loss for a 7-day moving average. But the markets that I saw were still trading pretty well. You look at your big sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri, had 2,300 head through the ring, nearly 1,000 more on their in-house video that they do each and every week pretty much, with help from dvauction.com. Look at the market through the ring at Ozarks Regional, and the receipts were curbed a little bit because it was rainy. A lot of those cattle come in that morning. I mean, the goosenecks are running wide open in that part of the country, bringing those cattle in that morning. But it was rainy and nasty. But steer calves sold $2 to $5 higher. Heifer calves steady to $4 lower. Yearlings were not well tested. I saw a stick-out deal on some steers at West Plains. 50 head of steers weighed 565 at $238. Your Zoetta stick-out sale of the day was Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota. About 3,600 head of feeders come through the ring there in Kimball. Look at your automated market report through Cattle Market Central. You look at your best tested weights, and I see 423 head of 6-weight steer calves, Kimball, South Dakota. They average 659 with a weighted average price on all of them at $217.78. 538 head of 7-weight steers average $746 with a weighted average price on nearly 550 head of them of $200.96. 1,100 head of 8-weight feeder steers in Kimball, South Dakota averaged $861 with a weighted average price of $191.63. Look at your best tested weights of heifers. 490 head of 6-weight heifers averaged $629 with a weighted average price of $196.97. Had a good sale in Unionville, Missouri, at Unionville Livestock Market. That's extreme north central Missouri there. They regularly feature the Rock and R cattle, backgrounded cattle from Lucerne, Missouri. They know how to do it. They get the weight to them, but they leave some good in them, and the buyers like those cattle, and they come right to them every time they feature them. You look at these 4 loads that they sold in Unionville on Tuesday. Those 4 loads of steers had an average weight of 856 pounds a load per head there, with an average price of $193.60. Pretty impressive. How about some individual quotes? Miles City Livestock Commission in Miles City, Montana. They had a lot of replacement quality heifers, and a lot of them were purchased for replacements there. And these replacement heifers, 85 head, weighed 570 pounds with a price of $2.28 a pound. Pretty darn respectable right there. How about Huron Continental Marketing in Huron, South Dakota? They sold 54 steers, weighed 597, or right at 600 pounds at $2.35 a pound. But your most impressive quote that I saw on Tuesday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day, indeed come out of Kimball Livestock Exchange in Kimball, South Dakota. It was 210 head of feeder steers that weighed 847 and bring $197.75. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.